In this video, we will introduce Broadcast Receivers Part 3. Let's finish our Broadcast Receiver implementation and run our demo. Here I have my Android manifest.xml, and I'm going to add a receiver tag to it to specify my receiver. I'm going to add an Android name attribute and add the fully qualified name of my simple receiver. Now within that, I'm going to add an intent filter tag. Finally, as a sub-element to the intent filter, I'm going to add my action tag. And here I'm going to use the name that I added for my custom intent. Now the receiver tag declares a broadcast receiver as one of the application's components. The broadcast receivers enable applications to receive intents that are broadcast by the system or by other applications, even when other components of the application are not running. There are two ways to make a broadcast receiver known to the system. One is to declare it in the manifest file with this element. The other is to create the receiver dynamically in code and register it with the context.registerReceiver method. The intent filter tag specifies the types of intents that an activity, service, or broadcast receiver can respond to. An intent filter declares the capabilities of its parent component, what an activity or service can do, and what types of broadcasts a receiver can handle. It opens the component to receiving intents of the advertised type, while filtering out those that are not meaningful for the component. The action tag adds an action to an intent filter. An intent filter element must contain one or more action elements. If it doesn't contain any, no intent objects will get through the filter. The Android name attribute is the name of the action. Some standard actions are defined in the intent class as action_string constants. To assign one of these actions to this attribute, prepend with android.intent.action to the string that follows the action. For example, for action_main, we can use android.intent.action.main, and for action web search, we can use android.intent.action.web_search. For actions you define, it's best to use the package name as a prefix to ensure uniqueness, as we've used here, comexample.app. Now let's demonstrate our functionality. I already have the Android emulator up and running. I also have already installed my app on the emulator. If you want to start the emulator and start the app, remember to right-click on your project, select Run As Android Application. Now let's take a look at the emulator. As we can see here, I have this button that we created called the Broadcast Intent. Now let's click it and see what happens. We can see here intent detected, and that's our toast message displaying. Again, to broadcast our custom intent, we will click on Broadcast Intent button, and this will broadcast our custom intent, which we named capital custom underscore and then capital intent, which will be intercepted by our registered broadcast receiver, our simple receiver, and as per our implemented logic, a toast will appear on the bottom of the simulator. Intent detected. This concludes our discussion of broadcast receivers part 3.